Luckily he's Swedish. So we can start. So today I will talk a little bit about my little pet project to connect WooCommerce and Apple TV and see if I can buy things through it. It's a little bit different focus than I want to present. So I don't have the payment done. It's just I have some parts of the app done and it shows potential. So I would love to present that. So in 2012, I spoke the first time here at WordCamp Norway, and I also talked a little bit about integrating into apps. I talked about an example of mine where WordPress was supplying data to an iOS app. So I had a big network installation, and every single site was like an app that people could use. In that time, things got changed. Then I was like integrating with a plugin called the JSON API. And it was pretty flexible. You could do whatever you want. And basically at that point, you can already like do all the things you can do now with the REST API. But we got it. So what is the REST API? The REST API is like APIs like the application program interface. So you have a way from outside the world or the world to you to integrate with your information you got and all the things you want people to do with your website. Well, the REST API has an additional layer on it. So the REST stands for Representational State Transfer. So it has all these kinds of things. Like you have like HTTP methods saying what you want to do. So get is getting information. Post is inserting it. Put is like updating it, and delete to delete it. So you have a whole kind of interface how to deal with it. In general, it's fun, but the whole REST API we don't generally use, but we just use the JSON part to send information to the world, like mobile apps can connect to it. WordPress from the front end can get information. So basically we only focus on the get part instead of all the other three methods that it has. So what is currently in core? So in core we have the infrastructure already there. So people can already add their own endpoints to it. But by default there's no endpoints there yet. When it will happen, who knows, but maybe not in the next release, but maybe in 4.6, depending on what the focus will be of the core team, which changes often than you think. But you have an infrastructure. You have a way to get your data to JSON. You have a status code. You have all the, like if you have a WP error, then the infrastructure already transfers this correctly. So you as developers can already do cool stuff with it, but you can't use what you expect from an API like, oh yeah, get me a post, get me a page, get me a media item. All that stuff is still not in there, but soon there will be. The question is now, how can you interact with that? So here's an example I use, like a small plugin that I use for WordPress, that the REST API, you can get information from the REST API and it will get the information from an internal API. So what you do is like call REST API in it, and from there you can send like the methods, like you can say like, normally you have a namespace, in this case checksums, and you use it there. What it is used for, and especially in WordPress, is to say like, okay, this version 1, version 2, but it's version 2 of WordPress. So if WordPress want to make a change, then they can easily do it based on version number, and your app will not break. So generally with PHP, no problem. If you change something, it will ignore it, it will give you a notice, but if you do it with a native app, with software, it will crash completely. So and suddenly if that information is gone, or is it, it changes from a string to an integer, everything breaks. So with that namespace, you have full control what you want to do. And then you say like, okay, what is like the endpoint they will call? So in this case it's plugin, the plugin name with the version number, and suddenly it will call back when it's there, and I say it's only readable. So you can only get that information through a get. And then you have here the methods where you pass it through. So you always have like a WP REST request, and you send back a response back with the information included. In between, I call a HTTP API internally to get the information. So with those, basically one callback and one action, you can do already a lot of cool stuff around it. And then we got like the Apple TV part. So the Apple TV is like the digital media player of Apple, and it has like, it's like a micro console. So it already in the beginning had small apps in it. You could interact with it. You could play music. That was one of the better features, that you can just use as a home cinema, like a home center, that you play all your videos from a laptop through iTunes or through iTunes on the box. For us, like if you're a MacBook user, it was the second one was really awesome, that you could just stream directly from your laptop to the Apple TV. But it has changed. The whole OS has changed and is now called TV OS and is literally based on iOS 9. What it gives us is like finally the app store that people want. So people finally can build apps and easily integrate it without talking with Apple to see if they could build an app that in the end maybe ends up on the Apple TV. But it also includes like a really cool new remote. So now, like what you had before with iPod Touch, you can just swipe with your fingers through the menu. You can play back, like say if you miss something, there's like one button, it will go back 10, 15 seconds. And it also has Siri support. Now the point is that Apple forces you, if you want to build an app, it does have to need Siri support. Because there's no keyboard. You can now connect with the latest version of tvOS integrated keyboard, but you don't want to use it. You just want to say to the remote, like, give me this information, and it should supply that. And how can you build stuff for it? So one option is go the Swift way. Learn the programming language of Apple and build stuff with it. Probably for us, not the best way. So now Apple also has like a template engine called TVML. And what it is just an XML structure. What Apple says, like there are the definitions and you apply for that. And Apple will do the basic styling. And it already looks pretty nice with just the basic styling. And there's a lot of new APIs that if you want to use Swift, you can interact to. But in general, you don't need to. So then there's the TVML. So what it stands for is like television markup language. So you basically specify individual pages and you supply it on the client side. So from WordPress, you provide those templates that should be loaded on Apple. So for us as WordPress developers, that's the way you want to go. Every page is built there. You can still do some little styling on top of it, but everything is like XML based. What in this case totally makes sense, that you want to validate it. XML is already kind of HTML anyway, and if you want to transform it to real HTML, it's really easy to do. So there's no reason to say like, well, why use it all technology and not JSON? XML in this case makes more sense. So for like WooCommerce, the basic one would be like their product template. And you have like default areas where you have a banner area, you have like a hero image, like the big one, you have like an info list, tag area, you have all kinds of like elements that Apple already provides for you. So if you would color this in, you will get something like this. So above the fold, you will see like product image, the name, some information about the movie, you can preview it, you can buy it, some additional images, and under the fold you get more information like what is the rating, who played in it, what's the language, information. So you have like really easy to do because, well, there's only one TV size, so you can easily design for above the fold and under the fold. And then we get to the good part, the WooCommerce integration. So first, we talk a little bit about the WordPress plugin. And it's basically using the REST API not to provide JSON, but to provide XML. And you can do that by the WordPress filter REST pre-serve request. So that's already before WordPress provides information. You can just provide your own information there and just echo it and exit before the rest of the JSON logic is called. So I use that to provide JavaScript for the application logic. So the Apple TV loads one JavaScript function from the server, and from there it will generate the templates, and that JavaScript controls everything. And I also use it to provide XML templates. I never changed that it provides only XML because the code sample I got from Apple was they wrap all the XML in like a Java script variable. Why they do that, I don't know yet. I do want to change that because if it's an API, it should only provide XML, and then the application logic should do whatever it needs. And soon I also want to build an API that basically provides HTML pages for the payments. Because you can't load WordPress, you only want to provide the payment logic and not the header and the footer. And the templates, what I did was like just every template, like the product template, is like a separated class with like would extend like the template clause that has some functionality that is needed, like the images. Sometimes it's an image XML tag, sometimes it's hero image. So I wrote like some logic around it to get like featured image, just a media file to make it easier for the template to use. And then you have the TV app. Basically what I do now is literally use the code example you can download from developer.apple.com, and I only a little bit changed it. So when you load it, now it also checks, oh, is the REST API available on that side? It can do that through the headers, and I provide my own header so that it also knows where the application logic can be loaded from. And from there, you can also start doing interactions. So say you want to buy something. That buy button is inside your WordPress logic. So it's inside of the template. It's inside JavaScript. But when you call it, you can create a function in Swift that acts like a JavaScript function, so you can call it from JavaScript and pass information through Swift and away back. So even if you don't have enough logic with, not a lot of knowledge in Swift, you can still do it. You can find code examples, and that's the way I did it. Like I got it working in about an hour without that much knowledge of Swift yet, because my base knowledge was Objective-C, so I had to relearn it too. So the current issues is like, it's not exactly HTML. So if you say like, oh, I want in my application logic, I want to load jQuery, yeah, forget about that. It tries to load the body, it needs it, or the HTML tag, and it's not there. So even if it's HTML, you can use CSS. It feels like HTML, it isn't. So it's something you need to think about. Like, that's the same problem I have with payment. The payment doesn't fit in the template because, well, it's get provided by the people from that. So if in the Netherlands we have Ideal, everything will be HTML. It goes redirected from one side to another. You can't build templates for that because it's external logic. You can try to transform it, but it would not work. So I need to build then an iframe that get loaded. Fine, because that will be another 50 lines of code, probably less, on the Swift app. Second, what I told in the beginning, the payments is a bit of the problem because, well, yeah, you need to load that iframe. So here we got like now a new app. So I built one from my sister's web shop. So her one is called Sazu, and she sells anime stuff. Let me see. I don't think I can change it, or can I? Yeah, that was better. Yeah. So now we got our catalog. So I load all the information from in a template, and the template parses all the products per category. So if you now go over it, you see prices, you see the product, and you can change the category if you want. I also already built like a discount page, which I did not style yet the product like that you really can see what the discount is. But you already can see the potential of where this app is going to head to, and in the future people will start buying products through a TV, or at least not through the normal mediums we know today. And if you then select the product, it's not loading a new template, and you can see that already built some logic in it. You can see the main image, you can see the text in, well, in Dutch, the title, you can buy it, there's a category there, and you'll see the stock. You have the gallery, and also you have the related products what WooCommerce provides. So now there's no really background difference, but even if you want to, you could provide that. So yeah, now the current logic, it doesn't work, but the way it does work is, say, like in XML you can say, when you press on this button and it has a certain attribute, it will just redirect to the new product without any problems. So yeah, the buy button doesn't work, but you already see like there's a lot of cool things that happen, and hopefully the future will be there soon. So yeah, the question now is, would it make sense for us to spend time on this kind of things? I would say yes, especially with WooCommerce being the leading product, not only for WordPress, but basically the leading e-commerce solution. And you already see like that Apple was on their announcement of the new AppleTV already talking about, okay, here you can buy clothing. Especially with clothing, it makes sense. Like, do you want to see clothing on your small screen? Maybe your laptop, but in case like, for some groups, it's more like an experience. They go together and buy the product and they just want to see a little bit bigger. Like, a little bit get the feeling when you go to the store. You don't see it a little bit like a small image, but you see it like really bigger. Especially if the TVs get 3D parts, you can already maybe try at one point, load it through the website, and you see like more like a 3D kind of image, like from 2D to 3D of your image, and people can more see like the differentiation in that. Because people already buy their clothing through mobile apps, and from that I can see this to be the future. I'm Marko. I'm the founder of CodeKitchen. I was the ex-lead of GlotPress, so where all your translations are coming from translate.wordpress.org. I'm a core contributor for WordPress. I currently work on 14 releases, and in 4 or 5 you can finally see thumbnails for PDFs, hopefully, if it gets added this week. And I'm one of the organizers for WordCamp Belgrade. Well, if you want to contact me about this kind of information when you want to play with it, this is my contact information, my email, and my Twitter handle. And, well, thank you for listening. Any questions? No, it doesn't help.
Yeah, hi. I have a question regarding payments.
Yeah.
And Apple haven't exactly been very flexible regarding payments in the past. How will Apple feel about you implementing your own payment gateway in your app?
Normally, they will not like it. But the problem is, clothing is different. Like selling products, like Amazon does it too. They don't see it as a big issue on that case because the pricing is different. Normally, if you build an app, you need to provide the pricing already in the app. You need to say this will cost that, and I think you only have like limits how much it can cost. Like you can say it's 99 cents, but you can't say it's 120. So for shopping, I never hear a problem with Apple, but I have experienced myself when I built an app that was drugs related. It was not trying to get people from drugs, but getting off it. But even that was an issue, and you have to go from like someone who's refused it to a board of like 8 people, and if one declines, you're screwed. But I never saw Apple doing something related to e-commerce that they objected. Doesn't mean it's not there. It simply means I didn't see it, and so yeah. But if Apple is promoting it already on stage, on their keynote presentations, for now there's not an issue. Maybe if suddenly a lot of revenue goes through e-commerce, you never know. Like companies change, they need to think about their profit, so it doesn't mind if it's Apple or Google or Amazon, then that will probably be an issue, yeah.
Thanks.
Hey, very cool. Will this be open source or will it be a plugin that you can download, or how will
For now, it's still how it is, private, simply because if people's now starting to play with it, a lot of things break. But it depends. Like especially if the payment works, yes, it makes more sense to make it at least partly open source or completely. What I want to do is more like make the plugin open source and build like a website where all WooCommerce products can come together. And you have like more like one app that navigates through multiple web shops. So you basically have like an API on my end that allows people to find your web shop, and from there redirect to like the TVML part and you can design the templates. So in that way, it's like a nice separation that normally, if I would release it, no one cares. It's my sister's web shop. It's nice web shop. It's locally to Netherlands and only targeted for like young kids till like a certain age because it's anime stuff. Doesn't mean adults don't like it, but it's targeted on maybe the wrong group. But if there would be like a marketplace where she is one of the 100, maybe 1,000 stores, yes, it would make sense. So yes, I will probably make it open source, but I can't make really promises when that will happen.
Hey, I'm George from Georgia.
Hey, George.
And why do you decided to use the REST API instead of the XML RPC? Because it's XML returns the already XML format.
XMRPC you can't use because XMRPC is basically saying, oh, this value is a string. Like, that doesn't work if you have like undefined XML template that doesn't have that, because it probably will parse it wrong or doesn't parse at all. So in that case, yeah, that would make sense. I could have built something custom, but I thought, well, since everyone is like cheering for the REST API, it would make sense to start using that instead. Like maybe some data would be JSON, most of it will not. It all depends where Apple will be heading to in this way. Even if Apple decides that they will change the template engine to JSON or whatever format will exist in 5 years, then it's easier to change that through the REST API if you be on XMRPC.
Probably Apple gonna use YAML, so.
They will create their own one. They call it like 8JSON or like, I don't know. Who knows? I think that was it. Thank you.
Thank you so much.